Hey, welcome friends. Welcome to my YouTube channel and thank you very much for giving your valuable comments and liking my videos. I once again request you to spread it to many other people so that they can also take value out of it, and I can also get a lot of feedback from you so that I can constantly improve on my future videos. This is extremely important video for all of you. Those people who want to get into the project management, which is a nation building stream, and people who are already inside the project management as a career, this is an important video for you. I request you to go through this video again and again and give your valuable comments. This is related to getting into a project management field. You need to give an interview. As a project manager, what are the questions which are expected in any interview? And I have selected 25 out of them. These are project management 25 important interview questions. Remember, I had a series 1 and I am sure you have taken note of this and taken value out of that video. There were 10 or 12 questions which I already covered in my earlier videos, and this is the series 2. The next video is going to talk about more deeply into the questions and its expected answers. I am sure you will like it and spread it to many people who want to get into this nation building stream, the project management. Let us start. The first question is on roles and responsibilities of a project manager. So the answers are related to these points. Initiation to closing. Project manager is responsible to initiate the project and to close the project, and that is the overall role. The next responsibility is activity and resource planning. He should be able to plan the activity and the resources required to complete that activity. Important part is organizing people, getting them together and motivating them to give their 100% so that the project goals are achieved, the project success is achieved. And there's very important role as a project manager where the leadership comes in first, to organize people and motivate them. He has to manage the scope, time and cost, 3 important triple constraints. He has to balance this basically 3 constraints so that the projects are not affected because of overbalancing of one point or one cost or one scope or one time, right? He has to manage the stakeholders, and for that he has to have communication skills, better communication skills. Projects are full of risks, so one of the critical responsibility is to manage those risks which are happening or which can come on the project. That's another roles and responsibility. Monitoring project progress. Obviously, the review of the progress is very important, and he should be able to monitor it. All of this is important, but the most important responsibility is integrate all the project activities, because a lot of things are done differently at different places by different people. Project manager is the one who acts like the maestro in an orchestra, where different people play different music elements or music instruments, but he manages to get one music which is very pleasing to our ears. Similarly, a lot of people do a lot of work. Project manager is supposed to integrate and present you the project as a whole, and that's the roles and responsibilities. I think these answers will definitely be able to start the interview process. Very important question. The second question is, how do you define the project? Now, project is a temporary endeavor to create a unique product or a service, and that's the basic definition of a project. It has a definite beginning, it has a definite end. The projects gets a lot of people, and that's why collaboration comes. And in projects, the ideas in the mind gets converted into reality. Any idea which is converted into reality is through the projects. The implementation happens through the projects, and these projects have been very important in civilization, in the history of mankind. The projects, there are a lot of examples of projects which has helped the civilization to grow, the mankind to grow, and that's the definition of the project. It should be. The third one, how do we make a project plan? Right? Project management plan is very important plan, and for that, understanding the project requirement is important. Understanding and organizing team members is important. We need to identify who are the stakeholders, and we need to have communication plans, how to manage those stakeholders, how to manage the entire team, what are the project qualities. The change management, projects will have changes. How do you manage is very important, otherwise change management will take over and the project will have chaos on the project. How do you manage the project resources? So this is a guiding plan, on how I'm going to approach the project. So you have to have these elements which are very important. The one important thing which comes out of this as of the project plan is what I'm going to do, how I'm going to do, and when I'm going to do. These three important questions are defined in this project management plan or project plan. These have to be there. What I'm going to do, that is scope, how I'm going to do, that is what is the approach I'm going to adopt, and when I'm going to do, the time. So this is very important, and you can give this answer accordingly. The fourth one is factors to consider while making a project plan. So obviously we should have estimates, we should have the team which is with him, the project schedule, because of that schedule, the timelines, you can draw your plan, because if you want to achieve this at this point of time, you should know what is that point of time, right, and what is supposed to be achieved, and what are the deliverables at the end of the project, what unique product service I am going to create. That's why we should know this. So these are major four factors which should be considered while making a project plan. Now, what is project charter? So this is a document which actually authorized project to start. So this is called a project charter. It's formally authorized the existence of a project, right? And provide project management authority to apply the resources required to manage the project activities, right? So it authorizes, it gives a authority to the project manager, and basically he then gets the resources into it. What are the components of the project charter? Business needs. What are the major risks which are there in the project? What is the purpose of this project, which is very important, because if you don't know the purpose, how will you start? The summary milestones, the summary budgets, initial list of stakeholders, because stakeholders will come in, go during the project life cycle. But which are the initial stakeholders, it should be known. What are the assumptions and constraints which we have considered while starting this project? While arriving to identify this as a project is very important, because those should be there at the back of the mind, and a project manager. So these are components of project charter. This answer should be given for a project charter. Next one is, what is work breakdown structure? What is WBS? WBS is the hierarchical decomposition of main task into subtasks. So if you look at an example over here, this is a construction of two-story building. It will have control accounts or the decomposition from foundation, ground floor, first floor, and the roof. On the foundations, we will have earthworks and structures. Within the earthwork, we will have excavation and then termite proofing. And below this, you will have tasks. So if you go to termite proofing, what is the task? So this is how it is decomposed, and there's a decomposition of the original project into tasks. So this is called a work package. Below work package there are tasks, and multiple work package reports to one particular package, that is called planning package, and those planning package again goes up, and we have control account. Now this gives, but WBS gives overall project picture, right? You can have a common scope framework. This is very important to get you the schedule and the cost of the project. Now, how do we break down? Till what point we should break down? We should break down to an activity which has got 8 to 18 hours. So 8 to 80 is the rule for making a work breakdown system. Next one is identification of stakeholders. How do we identify the stakeholders? First, identify through organization. So when you are at project, you should know who are the people who are closely involved or officially involved, right? These are the people who will be involved in the project. And second important part, which many of us misses, is identifying the people or the group or an organization who either feels that he is impacted by this project, he is impacted by this project activity, and if he does that, or if that group does feel or pursued, then they can impact the project activity or entire project together. Very important things to understand. These stakeholders who get or perceive to get affected by, or they can impact a project activity or entire project. So we need to identify these who may be not officially connected to the project. They might be outside to the project environment. So this is the identification of stakeholders. The next is prioritization of tasks in a project. So how do we prioritize the tasks on a project? One is the 80-20 rule. That is, we have to give the importance. We should go the task by importance. There are 80 tasks which will be not important. 20 are the very, very important tasks we should go. We can also have priority matrix of what we should give: first priority, second priority, third priority. And the next one is MITS, which is the most important task. So the important task has to be given the right attention. The next question is, what is critical path? Now, critical path is the longest path on a schedule. Let us look at this schedule which is in front of you. This is a start and this is end. It has got three activities A, B, C, and D. Every activity has a start date and end date, and the required duration. This is the required duration, and this is how it flows. So you can see at the end of day 30, the project gets completed. Now the activity B and C, you can see the activity. Now you can see the activity which has got a zero float. Now what is float? Float is nothing but the last date and early finish, the difference between this. Here there is a float of 5 days. So if you start on 5th day, you can see 6th day the next activity start, then it takes 5 more days, 10 days gets completed. But this activity cannot happen after 11th day. So what happens is, look at this activity over here. It takes 5 days over here, then it adds another 10 days. So after 15th day, only once this activity gets completed, this activity gets started. So which is critical path over here? A, C, and D. Now if you can look at the floats over here, you can see the floats are 30 minus 30 is 0 here, right? 15 minus 15 is 0 here. 5 minus 5 is 0 here. So this is the float over here. The activity or the path which has got 0 float is a critical. So project manager has to put a lot of effort and monitor the critical path, because any change in the critical path will have direct impact. So if it becomes, instead of 10 days over here, 12 days, this will become 32 days. But if it becomes 5 days to 7 days over here, we'll still have 12th day here, still you have some float over here. So it will not affect. But this any change on this path will have impact on completion of the project. Let us look at the 10th questions. What are the project knowledge areas? Now, these are given here: integration, scope, time, cost, quality, human resource, communication, risk, procurement, and stakeholders. So these are the 3 knowledge areas should be there in mind all the time. 11th questions. How can you use PM tools for your projects? So PM tools are used to have improved plannings. We can also use to have remote work. We can also use to have resource allocation, for cost management, risk management, and tracking progress. So there are various tools available we can use for these 4 or 5 or 6 categories. 12th question. Elements of risk management. What are the elements of risk management? First, you have to identify the risk. Second, you have to analyze the risk. Third one is to prioritize those risks based on the analysis. Fourth one is to have a response plan ready. If this happens, what is the response plan? Then, if that risk happens, you have to implement the risk. After implement, you have to evaluate and measure the effectiveness of implementation. And these are the elements of risk management. I hope you are understanding it. 13th questions. How will you do the risk assessment of your project? First, you have to identify the risk. Then there are 2 important things. If this happens, first of all, what is the probability of happening that? Second is, if it happens, what is going to be the impact on the project? So probability of occurrence and impact of the project are the ones which need to look at while assessing the risk on your project. 14th questions. Difference between project manager and a program manager. There are 2 different elements. Project manager is responsible for one project, whereas the program manager oversees projects, many projects at a time. Responsible for delivering project from start to end. Here it has a long-term strategic objectives, because you will have multiple projects. Now in projects or project manager, the purpose, the objectives are very crystal and clear. And for program manager, it is an ongoing activity because he manages multiple projects. So that's the difference between program manager and the project manager. 15th questions. Why does project fail? And these are the elements I think it can go through. One is lack of project management processes. People don't adhere to this. Ineffective communication. This is a major element in failing any project. Sufficiency of assumptions. The assumptions with which the project was started, there was an issue, and that can also have major impact on project. Lack of change management. As I said, projects have changes. How do you manage will decide if the project is done properly or not. So if there is no change management process, it will have impact, and it will have impact on failure of the project. Impractical customer experiences, impractical customer expectations. People, they know this is going to be take this much time, but they want early. People and technology challenge, at least in industry like MEP, it has an issue because availability of skill and competent resources is a challenge. Incompetent project manager, incompetent leader, and that's one of the major element of why does a project fail. If you don't have a right leader, right project manager, projects are bound to fail. 16th one, strategy to engage stakeholders. First of all, identify the right stakeholders. If you miss this point, other points doesn't matter. You have to identify the right stakeholder, identify their power and interest in the project. It's very important how their influence is, how their power is, and what are their interests. Have meaningful meetings, effective communications, and you should always have a relationship management. And the picture which I shown here is a juggler, and this is the role which project managers plays while engaging a stakeholder. For stakeholders, he cannot allow that bottle to get down. If any of the stakeholders comes down, it will have impact on the project. So that's why the project managing stakeholders is very, very important. 17th question. How do we create resource management? First, you should decide or determine available resources. Assign them. Plan the duration of engagement on the project. You have to have resource scheduling. After that, you should track the progress. There will be some adjustment flexibility required. You have to accommodate that flexibility or adjustment, and you should also retrospect for the future plans on that project. So this is how you create a project management, project resource management. Important part. And when I say project management is more art than science, this question comes: how do we keep the team motivated? And there are various tips. Some of them are here. Provide challenging and self-development opportunities to the team member. People want to take challenge. People want to develop. You have to give that chance to develop them. There will be errors which can be managed, but you have to first allow them. Right compensation for according to the work. Build as a leader trust and transparent and healthy environment. Set clear goals. They should know what they are supposed to do. And keep your doors always open because people can come and ask for any help. Give constructive feedback. Set a goal, and if you find there is an issue, you have to give the constructive feedback. Whenever you give the feedback, you have to give it alone. Right? You cannot give feedbacks or at least a negative feedback to the in front of others. Celebrate smallest of achievement. Another important part. So that builds, get the team together to celebrate. You achieve something, you celebrate. Discipline for all. You cannot have different discipline rules for different people. And as a leader, you should walk the talk. Discipline should also be part and parcel for you. It is also for you. So if you follow this, I think you can keep the team motivated. 19. Sources of conflict. When people come together, chances of conflicts are already there. So what are the sources? Sources could be progress, could be budget, could be time, could be ego, could be lack of trust, and one of the important part is communications. So this could be the sources of conflicts. Now, how do we resolve those conflicts? Resolution of conflicts, very important. You, as a leader, you must be listening to all the sides. Do not prejudge. Do not see that this person is bad. So in this situation also he must have done something else. So please listen. Do not prejudge. Get affected parties together and confront. Confront the issue. Don't confront the people. Confront the issue and find a resolution through a dialogue. And try and find out resolution which is acceptable to both the parties. It's a win-win situation for this. 21. Question 21. What are the best leadership approach? First, as a leader, as a project manager, you should have excellent communication skills. You have to be cool and calm in all times. You have to be proactive. You should see, ability to see future. You have to have vision in front of you. You cannot have today's day and tomorrow's work. You should have proper vision of the project. Positive attitude, integrity, very important. Transparency, very important. And you should have always a problem-solving attitude. You cannot be running out of the problem. You should be able to get them and solve the problem together and get a team together. 22. Question 22. How do you manage underperforming assets in team? You should have a roadmap for clear improvement, clear expectations, clear goals have to be told to them, constant review and giving constructive feedback, introspection of project management behaviors, and abundance of PM tools. You should have a lot of tools that people can take care of this. People can use those tools and perform. Question 23. What is gold plating? Gold plating means intentionally adding extra features or functions to the products which are not included in the scope statement. So it is, giving little extra which is not required. Gold plating is not the way to do. What is the scope creep and how to avoid it? So these are the smallest changes which goes unnoticed and which can have larger impact on the project. So this can be caused by client requirement changing for adding small features, and project creep is risk on the project. How do we control this? Be vigilant from the day one, understand the client's vision, understand the project requirement, include process of changing scope. So change management scope should be part of this. Guard against gold plating, nothing extra, nothing less, nothing more. Use your online project management software, which will be able to help you to track this. And the last question is how to manage difficult stakeholders. Clearly communicated goals have to be there. Project goals have to be told to everyone. And if there is lack of clarity there, then you will have issue. Right and early identifying stakeholder is very important. If you miss any stakeholder, it will have impact. Right communication metrics and constant communications and meetings is important. I have a beautiful video on managing difficult stakeholders. The link is here. I will also put the link in the description box. This is a very important video. It takes care of larger part of how do we manage difficult stakeholders. Thank you very much for your patient listening. You can follow me on YouTube, LinkedIn, and Facebook, as well as ajazkazi.com.